So our sermon today is going to be a little bit different. The group of youngsters and others who went to Kazakhstan. Sorry, that wasn't intentional. They will be bringing us a Kazakhstan mission report.
So apparently the geriatrics gets to go first. All right, there it is. So we are going to try and compress 10 days of amazing memories and amazing experiences into one report, and that's right now. And they've made some, the people at Pearl have made some videos we're going to share. So forgive us. I'm apologizing now. We're going to try and go quick, but this may be a little bit longer than a typical sermon, and we're going to try and move through. I'm going to share a couple things. You've seen some of these slides already, just to give you a refresher. Kazakhstan, where we went, has about 20 million people. Comparison, it's the size, it's the amount of people that's in just the state of Florida. It's a pretty large country. It covers, if you place it over the U.S., it covers about 2/3 of the continental U.S. Predominant religion is Islam, and so it's a little bit different approach to life than what we maybe in the West are used to. There is Orthodox Christian. If you are a member of one of the non-Orthodox churches, like if you're a Baptist or a Seventh-day Adventist, you are often categorized as maybe what we would call in the West a cult. They call it a sect. In other words, a small group you need to be careful with. And so as a result, Christianity is not allowed to, you can't really push it publicly because of the government's restrictions. So as a result, evangelism is illegal. You cannot do colporteuring or selling of books, evangelistic campaigns, public church meetings, all of those are off limits. And so in order to do some kind of witnessing, you have to get a little bit more creative, and that's where the medical missionary work comes in. Just to give you some perspective of where it is, you can see Russia to the north, China to the south and to the right, and then you see a lot of the other Stan countries, not all of them, but many of the other Stan countries are there to the south of of Kazakhstan. That yellow dot where you see there, or yellow star, I'm sorry, that's where we were. That's where the Pearl Health Center was. So we spent most of our time right there. So in order for the Pearl to do missionary work, they do medical evangelism. And so they bring in people that have mainly lifestyle diseases, and they help treat it naturally according to God's remedies given to us. And there's often amazing results, and many people are won to the Lord, and there's baptisms as a result. But if you remember this previous slide, there are only about 2,000 Seventh-day Adventists in the entire country. And so it's a very small group. So once a year in the summertime, the Pearl camp tries to attract the more serious-minded young people, ages 14 to about 30, to come to a summer camp that we would call it like a camp meeting, to come and be encouraged spiritually. And so this year, about 50 to 60 young people came, and they came from, I think we counted 5 countries that they came from. There were some from Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, I think, but the majority were from the Kazakhstan area. But there were about 5 countries, because this is kind of understood as a good spiritual uplifting for young people. And so we came, and I guess I've been asked before to come and speak for this camp, and I've always declined. And it's a pretty big commitment. This year, when they asked me to come, I was about to say no, and I just felt like I should be hesitant. And then Svetlana said, maybe the young people can come too. And so I presented it to our young people. They were excited about it. And so that was the beginning of the trip. And of course, this church has been very involved in many ways, but including in the whole process. So we're going to have people share that went on the trip, hopefully keeping it to around 4 minutes. And let's see, our first person is not here yet, so we're going to jump over to Heidi, who's going to share. And as she comes up, I want to express something. I've been on a number of mission trips, and they've all blessed me in a different way. This is the trip that probably more than ever before I sensed the support of prayer back home. I just saw so many things work out so beautifully and flawlessly without any hitches. It was the first time I said, wow, this is amazing. This is definitely, a lot of people must be praying, because this is definitely a God thing. So I want to just say thank you right at the onset, because we know the support from this church was making an impact. So Heidi is I'm going to press there, and then you go from there.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm sharing for Pastor and what I was asked to share. So we started out handing out an empty notebook with our sticker for our theme, Closer, Draw Closer. And we encouraged the kids to take notes. And I think it was Wednesday afternoon when we got our first seminars off the ground. Pastor and another man named Tapiva and Michael and myself each had certain aspects to share. But if you've ever been on a mission trip, you know that so much of it has to be left up to the Holy Spirit. You cannot organize and micromanage everything. It just kind of has this fluid aspect that it has to come together by the Lord. And it was amazing. Pastor Tapiva, Michael, and I had not really talked about who was exactly sharing what. But the whole theme was this theme of drawing closer and having a walk with the Lord. And it was just beautiful how each person's point of view and choice of seminar, choice of topic just flowed together. And it was really, really beautiful how that all worked out. It was my job to take 30 minutes and have a prayer time. So I tried to inspire them with walking through the sanctuary and imagining as you go through the sanctuary the different parts of prayer. And then we would take some time to divide into small groups each day. We had our little time for prayer. I think we did that every day except Sabbath. And then Sabbath afternoon, while the group was ministering to these troubled kids at a camp, the rest of us remained behind, and we took a prayer walk. Now, we didn't do it through the village. That would attract too much attention. So we talked about the concept, talked about the opportunity that they might be able to take it home to their own churches and do a prayer walk in their own towns with their own friends on a Sabbath afternoon, but for us, we took our prayer walk out behind in the back 40, which is a big, wide riverbed area, which made a really beautiful place. So the evening meetings, Michael was the fireside camp speaker for the evening meetings, and his focus was especially a relationship with Christ. And he took a lot of opportunity to make it like visibly practical. So he had fun bringing it real. Here you can see him wearing a hat, and in the darkness of the campfire, you can't really see what's there, but some of you may remember that things are dangling from this hat as a example of the distractions of the world that want to take our minds away, and we constantly are bringing it back to focusing on Christ. And at the end of each evening meeting, he had a sticker for us, various stickers. Like this one was a butterfly reminding us that in Christ we are faultless already. We may feel like a caterpillar, going nowhere, accomplishing nothing, but we can't look at what we see. We have to look at what God says about us, and he says we can fly. So, and then another one was Superman sticker, which many people would recognize that, but it's a reminder to us that we have a superpower if we abide. If we are constantly connected to Christ, we can fulfill those things that he has given us to do, and it's not a big deal. All right, where am I? One of our seminars took time to talk about relationships. Of course, everybody was at the age for that. And so at that particular time, we divided into two groups. And the men went and talked about guy stuff, and the girls stayed in our main hall and talked about girl stuff. And I think we could have gone on for another hour. But the end was the end, and that was that. But a lot of meaningful conversations were begun or had, and that was a huge blessing to watch them just really soak it up. Let's see, next picture. So we had the Sabbath sermon, and in this one, a couple of examples that Michael used. You can see that red thing in the corner over there. You've probably seen them advertising. They got a little fan, and they go up, and they fluff, reminding us that if we're not connected to the power source, we can't dance. We can't live for Christ, being disconnected. Lots of things like Jesus would have done, connecting us with the things we see every day to remind us of the things that we need to be seeing in our lives in a spiritual way. So now I'd like to tell you a couple of stories. We've got, let's see, is it this? Yeah. We've got some, oh, honey, get me my phone. I forgot to bring what I was going to read. So we've got this girl. Her name is Sasha, and this, and this, and this. These four girls here in the front row had been part of the camp for like 4 years in a row. And Sasha, the one who I'm standing beside, my arm around her, she wanted to be sure that we got a particular message. She didn't speak English very well, so between Sabbath school and church, we took a few minutes to take some time to take a group picture and quickly grab some snapshots like this. And she walked up to me with her little foursome, you know how little teenage girls all hang together, and they're about 15 years old. And she hands me her phone, and she's like, read this. So this is what she said. Hi, my name is Masha. Unfortunately, I can't speak English, but I really wanted to tell you something. I've been coming to this camp for 4 years in a row, and during all that time, you have been the most comfortable and welcoming group of people who have ever come here. It makes me so happy that all of you always smile when you walk by. It creates such a warm atmosphere. I really hope to see you here again someday. Thank you so much for choosing to come here to visit us. It's such an interesting and amazing experience, both for me, for you and for us. I would really appreciate it if you could show or tell this message to the other guys as well. So that was Masha's little testimony to say thank you. She had to have that translated. Probably Google Translate helped her out with that. And then I'm going to share another story. We've got these girls, they wanted to do fun pictures, and so this one down here on the bottom with Melissa, they're doing the splits down there. She came with her grandmother, her older sister, and her younger brother. So she's the middle child, a 15, 16-year-old, and she had also been one of those to come for the 4 years. And I wasn't the one the story was told to, but I was aware of the circumstances surrounding. One of our seminars, Pastor just really encouraged us to pick a time, pick a place, how to study the Bible, the regularity, the rhythm you get into, and how to pray. And then he said, now let's take 30 minutes and go do this. And he challenged us 30 minutes for 30 days, a commitment. And the older sister of Diana here, the one in the bottom doing the splits, she said, Diana, let's do it right now. They grabbed their notebook and their Bible, and they went out and they found a secluded spot out in the nature. And together, I don't know exactly what they read or prayed or did, but the older sister, Irina, came to, it was either Pastor or Michael, I don't remember which one the story was told to, and just said, my sister and I had such a cool experience. I think it was the first time she really met Jesus. She was in tears, and she opened up to me, and the Holy Spirit was there, and I just want to thank you so much for giving us this nudge, this encouragement to be close to the Lord and to make it real, to really learn to walk with God. And that was the underlying connective theme of all of those. And it was beautiful to see the openness and the fulfillment happening right there, the Holy Spirit being poured out right there while we were together.
All right, Michael Lee, come on up. We passed over you earlier, and just in case you thought you were going to get away with it, didn't work. Come on up and share with us a little bit about the long journey.
So let's see here. We started our trip packing. I kind of started packing like the night before, I think. It was really late, but we managed to get packed. I don't even remember what time exactly we left at, but it was a 5-hour drive to Atlanta. We made it there. Everybody was happy and not tired yet. 12-hour flight. I don't know which pictures this flight is, but 12-hour flight from Atlanta to Istanbul, Turkey. We were pretty tired when we made it to Turkey. You can see some people sleeping, people looking awake, some people playing Uno, not very successfully. And then after that, took off from Istanbul to Almaty, Kazakhstan. We got there at, I don't even remember, it was early morning, 3 a.m., I think. Everybody was very awake. Yeah. And then after that, we drove to a place that the center owns in Almaty, about maybe 20 minutes away. Slept for as many hours as we could, woke up the next day, and then we drove to the center following that, and then here's some pictures of the driving. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The reason they had so much opportunity to spend time outside the Almaty airport is because I was carrying a large amount of cash for the center, like $40,000. It was more than that. But anyway, so Customs decided they wanted to talk to me for a long time. So they had an hour plus to hang out while I'm sweating bullets with all this money. So Emily, come on up and share your part.
Okay, I'm really excited to share with you guys about this because nothing went according to how I originally planned or thought it would. But that's okay because everything went how God wanted it to. So I was in charge of the exercise and games, And I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do until the day before I had the camp and the kids coming in. So I had to figure out, I was awake at 3 a.m. in the morning trying to pull from different sources, like where I had seen exercises before, what I had done. And up until this point, my original idea was that I was only going to lead like 5 to 10 minutes of stretching. Turns out I was leading a whole hour of exercise. So I had to figure out how to do 30 minutes of workouts, and then after that we went for walks. So we did some stretching, about 10 minutes, and then I went into like a 20-minute workout. It was very leg and ab oriented, and the guys were kind of complaining, but I think it was just because they were struggling, they couldn't do it. It was kind of fun. It was kind of fun for me to see. So yeah, that's us stretching. And we had our morning walks, which was a lovely time to just kind of like debrief and honestly get to know each other better and just talk. And then after that, I had another 2 hours of games and activities that I had to be in charge of. And I don't know if it had to do with just lack of resources or translation issues or something, but a lot of the props that I had wanted, I did not have for the games that I intended to do. So I had to figure out and improvise what games to do, and I even pulled some of the staff and asked them, hey, are there any games you guys like to play in Kazakhstan? Which was actually really cool because then we ended up doing games that they play in Kazakhstan, and then I showed them games that we play here. So it was kind of just like a nice way to connect with each other and build stronger bonds. But the key takeaway for me on this is even though I felt like nothing was going how I wanted it to and was really stressed about that, a lot of the young people came to me afterwards saying that I had motivated them to start exercising and wanting to do that and also just live a healthier lifestyle. So I think God used me in big ways that I didn't even realize was happening, and a lot of girls were very happy to talk to me about more of my health journey and what that looks like for me and such. So, yeah.
Okay, so my part of the trip was some work projects. There was a lot of ideas of stuff that we could do, but the main one is that they wanted some benches built. And we did the best job we could to prepare beforehand. I had templates, and I even built a little prototype of the bench with my dad to kind of make sure that we could get everything done that we wanted to. But by the time we left, there was still a lot up in the air as for materials and things. We actually brought a whole suitcase over full of tools, just trying to cover all our bases. So, we get there Tuesday or Wednesday, 2 a.m., and the next day, that morning, we went to go find wood. We went to a wood market, and, the dimensions were different than what I had told they had. So me and Michael were there trying to do quick math, trying to figure out what we needed to actually get. I was pretty worried if we had the right amount or had gotten too much. But the next day, Wednesday, we spent most of the day on the benches. It was me and Michael Lee. He was a huge help. We could have used more people offered to help, but we just didn't have enough tools for everybody to work. But we spent basically all day Wednesday getting the leg portions of the benches together. And we even had the perfect amount of wood. There was like zero extra. It was like perfect. Now we only had 3 days to build these benches, and there was a camp meeting going on with like 6 meetings a day. So there was not a lot of time. Thursday, we were still working on the legs. We had gotten them all glued up, but there was a bunch of sanding, a lot of hand finishing and things we had to do to get them ready. And by the end of the day, Thursday, basically the legs were ready, but we still had all the slats for the benches left to do and a lot of sanding left. And by the end of the day, Thursday, I remember thinking, I don't know how we're going to get done because we have one more day. But I felt peace for some reason. And I remember wondering, like, I don't see how we can get this done, but I wonder how it is going to get done, because I felt like it would. I don't know, I'm getting emotional, but the next morning, I came out to start working, and Tim was there. And he was a super awesome guy. I had never talked to him before, but he lives off of 10% of his income and donates 90% to the mission. He had never worked with wood before. He worked with like concrete and things, but he just started helping us, and he helped us all day, and we wouldn't have been able to do without him. He was just, had the best spirit. He told us, he was like, I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, I don't have a car, I don't have a house, but I have big Jesus love. And that was about all he could say in English. But he was just awesome. And we spent Friday finishing up the benches, and we had a lot of fun. It started raining. We found some shelter. And by the end of the day, Friday, some other people came out to help. And right before supper, as the bell for supper rang, they finished up putting the last coats of finish on the benches, and we finished. And so we were able to build 3 benches, and they're pretty happy with what came out. So God's timing is perfect, which feels a little late for us, but he worked it out.
And when Dovelet saw the finished product, because, a lot of us were just really busy with other things. So Dovelet saw the finished product. He was so amazed. He said, we can't we wanted to put these out on the trails. He says, we can't put these out on the trails. They've got to be at the center or in the center. And I said, well, why? We built them for the trails, for the guests to walk. And he says, they'll get stolen. I says, well, in the United States, we usually chain them down if that's a concern. He says, no, they'll cut the chain. These are too nice of a bench. People will love these benches. They're too special, so we'll have to keep them at the center. So as you can see, they're going to be at the center. We had a little section on food, but we're going to basically skip over that. But I'll just show you a couple of the slides real quick. We were, watermelon was popular. We did go out to eat. We get to a noodle restaurant. It was phenomenal. And, they're Muslim, so that pork is not an issue. But horse meat can be, so you got to watch out for the horse meat. And here is the picture of Emily doing dishes when we were out in the mountains. So, Sophie, come on up and share with us, add to the story that we shared originally about doing some outreach.
Oh, I have pictures. Nice.
Actually, you know what? Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you only have the video. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, okay. I don't have pictures. It's so I'm so happy to see you guys again. Last time I was here, I had shared how Mr. Stevens and I shared how God had already done a huge miracle in providing a place in children that we can evangelize to. And that is how it was. Until we set foot in Kazakhstan. When we got to Kazakhstan, we found out the director of the camp to which we were going to thought we were like a sect or a cult. And she decided to cut communication off with Dovelet and Adam, which were kind of organizing this whole thing. So we're up in the air all over again. We're planning a bunch of things. We're saying, like, we'll even rake yards. Like, we just want to go out and evangelize some way, somehow, even if we don't have to say the name of Jesus. So days go by, days of negated answers, questions, and then, which was really funny to me because the whole situation is just like how the enemy works to cut off Jesus in any way, shape, or form, but just how much faith, like that's one thing that impressed me so much, just the amount of faith these people have. We were one day before on Friday of the camp meeting, and keep in mind we're supposed to be doing evangelism since the camp meeting started, so from Wednesday to Friday technically, and it's Friday, Dovelet goes to the Department of Education. He is going to this meeting. I don't know why. I don't remember why. And then God led him to meet her former mayor, in which he was friends with. And Dovelet was just like, can you introduce me to the deputy head of education of the region? And so the mayor did, and they had a conversation, a fruitful conversation. He's like, you know what, here, just sign some papers and continue on with the health expo. Therefore, the director of the camp opened up, and she's on Saturday. So from Friday to Saturday, like this just happened within hours, and we got to do the health expo, which was just, I feel like everyone can attest to this, but we've been living in 1,000 miracles. So yeah, it was beautiful. And then, yeah, and it opened so many opportunities just to go out to other schools as well. So we didn't say the name of Jesus, but he was felt, and he will be seen.
They have a video that they put together, and the person you see, the first lady you're going to see, and it is subtitled, so the captions you can read in English. She's the one that ghosted us, not us, but the leaders, right at the beginning. She didn't want anything to do with it when she found out we were a religious organization, or it was a Christian organization. And so, but she was so excited. She begged us to come again and again and to go to other camps. But obviously, it's a labor issue. We just don't have enough people to do it. But we're going to share that video, and then Mariah and David are going to share a few experiences from the children's doing the evangelism with the children.
Сегодня нашему лагерю Алтынчажа Центр здоровья «Жемчужина» подарили очень приятный сюрприз. Были созданы 8 станций, которые очень заинтересовали детей. Здесь была и логика, и мозговой штурм. Для себя взяли очень много. И мы надеемся, что будем сотрудничать и в дальнейшем.
Сәлем. Маған бұл ойындар өте қатты ұнады. Мен бұл ойындардан көп нәрсе мәліметтер біле алдым. Маған бұл ойындар өте пайдалы болды деп айтсам болады.
Понравилось то, что взрослые нам рассказали про вредность сладостей и про пользу воздуха и воды.
Бұл күнде маған осы жарыс ұнады. Бұл жерде мен көптеген пайдалы заттар алдым, мысалы уақытында ұйықтау, мұрнымен демалу деген сияқты. Менің ойымша бұл жерде болған заттардың бәрі пайдалы. Бүгін күнім прошло не зря.
Узнал, что в Кока-Коле очень много сахара, и он мешает нам жить. Маған бұл ойындар өте қатты ұнады. Өмірге керекті мәліметтер алдық, өзіміз денсаулығымызды сақтай аламыз осы мәліметтер арқылы.
Бұл эстафета біз үшін өте қызық болды. Бұл жерде, мысалы, біз білмегенбіз торттың кішкентай кесегінде оншама көп қант болатын. Ол денсаулыққа зиянын білдік, және де басқа заттарды білдік.
Қайырлы күн, 7 станция өттік біз. Мына жерде тамақтану туралы, денсаулық туралы білім алып жатыр. Соның ішінде мына жақта таза ауаның пайдасы туралы бізде ата-аналар өзіміз айтқанда оны түсінбейді балалар. Мына жерде өте бір жағынан қызықты болып жатыр, и бір жағынан өте жақсы түсіндіріп жатыр. Судың пайдасы жайында айтып жатыр. Мына жақта келесі біздің станция күн сәулесінің пайдасы жайында айтып жатыр. Одан кейін дұрыс демалу жайында. Ана жақта балаларға деген сенім, әр сезон сайын әр апта сайын келіп тұрсаңыздар өте керемет болар еді. Көп рахмет, өте қуаныштымыз.
Okay. So, this was our health camp for the kids. They had so much fun. There were some kids that they were telling us didn't want to go, and they were watching from the side, and then later on they would come up and we'd be like, you got to go start over there. And they would get a group and they would go, and some of them were like, we want to go again. Can we do it again? They were so excited. And you can see these 3 boys, they were sitting with me and Sammy. We were at the very end, and after they had gone through, they came and they sat and they're like, when is your happy birthday? And then, how do you say, and they would say a word or something, or they were trying to talk to us. They know American memes and jokes. They do, a lot of them, some of the things that are not good to learn, but they would hear us say a word and they would be like, oh, and they would say something from a meme. They enjoyed the American snacks that we had, because at the very end we passed out, and the doctor lady, you saw her, she was explaining which station was which, and the thing, she came up with the doctor from the Pearl Camp, and they sat down together and they were talking. I didn't know what they were saying, and he goes, she wants to know if the snacks are okay. And so they looked at the ingredients and she was like, oh, okay. And then they tried some because they had to make sure they're okay. And they both just sat there eating snacks. It was cool. So let's see. There was also stickers for all of the camps, and they really, really, really enjoyed collecting the stickers. And you could tell more about that.
Yeah, I was at the water station. As we know, there was 8 stations, and you could just see how enthusiastic the kids were to not only like get stickers and play around, but just learn. We had a Coca-Cola bottle to demonstrate how harmful liquids or harmful drinks what they can do to your body. And the girls were kind of shy to like put their hands on Coca-Cola, and the boys were, yeah, me. And they would just like be so enthusiastic. And also you could just see their attention. And as you can see, this a lot wanted to collect stickers to put them on their faces. Some would ask for extra stickers, and yeah, it was just really cool. Another thing that really stuck with me, I don't know if y'all see a theme here, but I'll explain. Before going there, this is the pastor. His name is Tapiwa. He was giving seminars, and he encouraged me to go to the camp. He didn't tell me exactly why at the moment, but when we were on the way, he said, I went to the town earlier, and at the town, he got really attention because he told me there weren't a lot of people of our skin color. So so as we were going to the camp, he told me the kids are gonna love you. And you could really see this because at first the girls were really polite, but they were like, hi. And then the first group of guys that came, the little kids, and after that, every single group of boys that came, they would just come up to me and like they would see me like, hi, and then each one of them would shake my hand, like they would get in a row, and it was like so cute and so cool. And after the service, we took a lot of photos. They came after wanting to take photos, and it was great. And then after that, our very own were teasing us about it, as you can see here. But yeah, it was a great experience just to have an impact on the children. Although we couldn't preach about Jesus, I know that what we did will have a lasting effect on them, and I was happy to do that for them. Yep.
Yeah. They could, one of the helpers from the Pearl Camp came up to us, and we're at the end of the station. We're kind of far away from the rest of it. We were kind of looking out and seeing everything. He says, pray. And that was at the beginning of it. And sitting back and watching everything from off in the distance, you could see that God was working. There was so much going on, but it was all going very smoothly. I don't think anybody got hurt. Nothing happened that was like upsetting to anyone. And the more people that came, the more joy there was. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm just going to add a couple things. David was our resident celebrity. I mean, so many people. He could have charged money for pictures and gotten it. I mean, he was asked if he was a gangster. He was asked if he was Michael Jordan. It was so cool. And so it was like, first time in his life ever. But anyway, one of the reasons that the Pearl Camp was so amped up about this opportunity was because we pushed for it, but they had to lead out because of the language barrier, so we just assisted them. But they were so excited because we had children from 5 different countries, children and young adults from 5 different countries got to see how they can minister in an Islamic country themselves. And that, they were just like, we didn't even think of this. This is absolutely amazing. We're teaching the people that came to the Pearl Camp how to minister to the community people without being religious through health evangelism. So that was a huge thing. Okay, Melissa and Sammy are going to come up and they're going to share about some of the sightseeing we did.
So yeah, we got stuck on the sightseeing. We started out at the Chadun Canyons. This is the view from the very top, but we started walking down.
Yeah, it was about a 3-mile
hike, not a 3 mile, 3 hour hike back from to and fro.
Yeah,
We
there's
went to a river.
a lot
There's
of
more
really cool
pictures.
rocks, and people tried rock climbing. At the bottom, yeah, there's the river, and we got yelled at, the ones of us that waded in.
Yeah, you're not allowed to go swimming in the river. 'Cause
They
it's
don't
too
want you to
fast.
drown. We had to walk out again, and a lot of steps for sure.
Yeah.
We got our steps in. The view from the top was just really pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, then we went to the Tian Shan Mountains. We got there around, it was pretty late, around 9 p.m. And that night we slept in yurts, so that was really, really cool. So this is how they look like in the inside.
Those were our beds. We just had like mats
Yeah.
and then blankets over top.
Yeah, it did get pretty chilly, but they had heaters.
Felt like something out of a movie.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Then this was our bathrooms at the yurts. Yeah.
So that's the actual bathroom, and then the view from the bathroom.
Yeah, the view was the best part of the bathroom. The next morning we went on a walk. We went on a quick walk before breakfast to visit some caves that the Soviet Union had blown out multiple years back.
Yeah, and that was really cool. There was a horse inside the cave, actually.
We didn't ask him if he was Soviet. We tried to take a long exposure picture. Some of us cannot stand still, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, then we went.
It was just really, really pretty there.
Yeah.
The flowers.
That was so.
We played with some of
That
the
was with the local
people.
kids, the family that owned the yurts. They had kids, and we were playing with them a lot. And then we went to the Kolsay Lakes. That was really, really pretty. It felt like we were in the Alps.
That was like the view halfway up. At a lot of these sightseeing spots, they would have a falcon spot, and you could like put on traditional clothes and take pictures with the falcons if you paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, once we got down to the lake, we went and walked around a bit. They had boardwalks basically all the way around the lake.
Yeah, so we walked a lot. We took group pictures.
Got to walk all the way back up to the top.
Yeah, very steep.
It was definitely fun. Then we went on our way back to Almaty. We stopped at the Black Canyon real quick for a lunch. If you're wondering what they're all watching in that photo, they were seeing how far they could throw rocks.
And then that was the next day. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the next day. We went to the bazaar. That was really, really cool experience.
Massive.
It was really, really, really big.
This is just one of the food spots. But
Yeah, that
they
whole
had,
was dried seasonings, vegetables, fruits.
they had like hundreds and hundreds of booths with all kinds of things from like teacups and traditional clothes.
Yeah, as you can see, Melissa's wearing one of the traditional pieces.
They also had flasks and shot glasses. Yeah, lots of trinkets. And the food, there was so much food. I was so hungry.
That's Aram. That was a Korean. That was a Korean booth that they had. The food there was really good.
Yeah, after we got some food, we stopped off on the side of the road and ate by this river. And this is just a picture of in Almaty. There's a lovely sign making sure that you know that the changing table is for changing babies and not for them getting abducted by aliens, adults sitting, or babies being superheroes. Our next stop was the Shimbolak Mountain Resort. Here's some quick facts about the Shimbolak Mountain Resort. The Shimbolak Ski Resort begins at a base elevation of 2,260 meters or 7,415 feet, while the highest lift carries you up to Talgar Pass at 3,180 meters or 10,433 feet above sea level. The surrounding peaks towering directly above the ski area, I'm not even going to try that one, peak, which reaches an elevation of 3,560 meters or 11,680 feet.
Yeah, we were high up there.
We started off and we got in the just regular little ski things that carried us up to the top. This picture was about halfway up, and this was just out of one of the gondolas. And then we stopped halfway up, and I don't know how many of you know, but in Kazakhstan, you don't throw your toilet paper in the toilet, you put it in a trash can. So they're making sure you know that the toilet is not a superhero, it can't handle everything, but the bin nearby can handle everything. This was the view from the top, looking towards the mountains.
Yeah, that was the very top. There was snow there. I think there's another picture. Yeah, there's still snow.
The one on the left, it's looking down towards Almaty, and then this is the really high peak behind. I wanted to eat some of the snow, but didn't work out. We took some pictures up there, and then we went back to Almaty for some much-needed food and sleep.
Yes.
It was about 90 degrees that day in Almaty, and you can see we were up to the snow level, so it was quite a contrast of just going up, 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 4 different chairlifts or 4 different sets of gondolas, or three different sets. So I'm going to take a little bit of time now to give you a couple of, we'll do some human interest stories, and then we've got a couple videos we'll show you. I'm sorry this service is longer, but again, cramming a lot in. Some of you donated very generously to this trip, and we want to say thank you very much. Of the budget we had, we brought, we were able to buy the tickets and do all the traveling. When it was all said and done, we were able to bring back to the Boone Church, I gave it to Caesar with a spreadsheet of all the expenses, $3,700 to go toward the next mission trip someday in the future. We hope to do, this church can do another mission trip. And we still were able to give a $2,200 donation to the Pearl Center. And just to put it into perspective, I think you may have seen it on the first slide, the average village worker, unlike America, they have a bigger lower class and a bigger upper class, smaller middle class. America's just the opposite. So the average village worker, lower class, is about $200 a month. So it was a pretty big gift to them that we were able to give. Mariah, come on up and share a story if you don't mind. We did something different in that on Sunday, we let the young people from the camp share testimonies. I wish we had time to share them all. There were just so many, but Mariah will share one and I'll share one just to give you an idea.
So this was a young man. He was fairly quiet and kind of in the background throughout the whole camp. And then on Sunday morning, he stood up to tell us his story. And he started out by saying basically that his sister, he only came because his sister really, really wanted to go. He had a younger sister with him and a friend. And he was struggling with depression and various other things. And it was beautiful to see him tell the story, even though it was in a different language. You could see by the emotions on his face how much of an impact it had on him. He said he had become inspired by pastor's sermon to go out and spend time with God and make that a point, to ask God to tell me when you want to spend time, and we need to spend time together. So on Sabbath night, he told God when he went to bed, which was fairly late because everyone was staying up and talking, he said, "Wake me up, God, when you want to spend time with me." And early in the morning, he woke up, and first he was saying to himself, "Oh, I don't want to get up, it's so early, I'm tired." But then he was like, "No, this is what I asked God for." So he got up and he went out and he said that he felt the most peace that he has ever felt in the longest time, and he could feel God close to him, really, truly close to him. And when he was telling the story, he started to tear up and cry, and you could see how much of a relief it was, a burden off of his shoulders, to have that connection with God. And he is just one of the many people who got to experience drawing closer to God in such a beautiful way.
David's going to share briefly about another young man. I forgot about him.
Yeah. I don't think I think there was a photo here. Let me see if I could find it. It's his back. His name was Arson. He was, it sounds like, it's not that. But he was a bit older than the other one. I think he was like 25 or 26. But he was someone I was able to connect with and talk a lot during the camp. And same with a lot of other youth. They were very enthusiastic to talk to us and everything. I can't find it. But there was a moment that he came up to me and said he wanted to talk to me aside, and we were busy and we couldn't talk at that moment, but I believe it was Saturday night. It was like one of the last days of the camp. He pulled me aside and he just started telling me a little bit about his experience. He had been dealing with depression because he didn't have that many people close to him. And he just started telling me how the camp had impacted his life, how he was able to draw closer to God, and he could feel that being with us, it was just such a blessing because we would radiate just so much joy and fellowship that he felt that he needed more of that. And he asked me to pray for him, and we prayed together because he wanted to stay a little bit longer at the camp because he wanted to experience more of that. Yeah, but that was a little bit about arson, and yeah, there was a lot of stories.
So we take a lot for granted living in the United States when we have so many resources available to us, and we get great sermons, we get great materials, and they just don't have that living in a culture that is predominantly Muslim. And so we don't appreciate how much blessing we have being able to congregate like this in this fashion. And so many times after I would share something in a message, I'd get a young person that wanted to talk to me. First night, a lady just really teared up about some of her struggles. But I'll share there was another young lady that I think it was on Thursday. I don't remember what day. One day she came and she wanted to visit. And so we sat down and we started talking. She had been raised in a very abusive home, parents that were not a good situation for her to be in, both of them for various reasons. And she even mom came to LA for a little bit. So she knew a little bit of English. But it was just not the healthiest situation. They went back to Kazakhstan. And she got into drugs. She got into a very poor lifestyle. Then at 19 years old, she became a Christian. And she assumed that her anxiety, her depression, her addictions, and her past would cease to haunt her, and that she could start a new life with Christ. But the challenge she was facing is that she still struggled with some of those things. And she was like, am I not a Christian? What's happening? And so we were able to talk a fair bit about that. And I encouraged her to stay longer because after that camp meeting, there was a 1-month training for Adventist youth to help them be more grounded. It's called Light Training, and it's to help Adventist youth be more grounded in our message. And I encouraged her to consider staying for that. And she resisted it. She's like, I don't know. I don't think it's for me. And she was mainly fear motivated. She didn't want to stay. And so I think it was Saturday night after the meeting, I spoke with her again. And I told her, hey, listen, we will be happy, my wife and I will be happy to sponsor you to stay. $200 for her to stay a month. Like I said, it's pennies for us in comparison. That covers food, that covers housing, that covers all their classes and all their materials needed. And so she still was very resistant. But eventually, when we left, I got a text from her. And I'm just going to read a couple of her texts to give you an idea. She said, I wanted to thank you so much for your sermons and for talking to me. Our conversation really encouraged me. It was like a special sign from God. And I heard that multiple times from people that what we did or something we did was a sign from God for them. And now I want to attend the 1-month school. Also, last night I had a very meaningful dream. Dreams are much more common there than they are here. As far as significant dreams. I'm on my way home to talk with my father. If everything goes well, I will come to the school. And so that was what I got. And then a little bit later, I got another text. I really love being here. I increased my faith in here and got peace in my heart. They need someone to stay here for the media team. I'll try and do this work for a few days, even if everything goes well, who knows, maybe I could stay here and serve this place and people. Yesterday, I got a text from her that says, thank you again for advising and sponsoring me here. It healed my heart. And she just represents someone who communicated more, but there's been so many people that communicated with us of how impactful we were, even just for the week that we were there to serve them. Next, we have some videos that are shared, and I'm sorry, one of them just literally came in while I was in Sabbath school. And so it's from Dovelet sharing thanks. I don't even know. I just started to glance at it. I didn't have time, so I don't even know what he says. Hopefully it's okay. But anyway, we're going to share a video, and this is like to the chagrin of the group that went, because I asked the group some questions and we videoed them. And so sorry for the group that went, and this may be a little bit long, but it gives you a little bit idea of the trip and its influence on our young people.
I really enjoyed that we had a secret friend that we were able to give gifts to over there, and we had bought some really cool ones from the state here so that we could bring them back over to Kazakhstan and surprise everyone with American gifts.
A highlight of the trip for me was we went out into the mountains and we got to stay in a yurt, and because of the World Cup was going on then, the kids had a ball and they were playing soccer, and we all got to play soccer under they had some Christmas lights up, and we all played soccer with the kids. Even though we didn't speak the same language, we were all just having fun playing, and the view was really beautiful in the mountains.
One of the biggest highlights for me was going to the Health Expo, where there was a kids camp, and seeing all the kids, how interested they were to learn about health and get their hands dirty with little experiments and stuff. Just seeing the heart that they had was a really big highlight for me.
My trip highlight was probably when we went up to the mountains and we got to stay in the yurts, and there was a young cat there and we played with him a lot.
A trip highlight for me was definitely going up the mountains in Almaty, just because it was equally freaky and amazing.
The largest highlight of the trip for me was probably going to a health expo on Saturday. We went and did some little health classes for a bunch of kids at a camp. It was really cool. I didn't speak the language and just handed out stickers the whole time, but it was really fun to see everybody's enthusiasm and just the difference in moods from when we first got there and when we left was really cool to see.
As far as the trip itself, watching the young people, both from our group and from the camp all together, the electricity of going on the outreach, that was a really, really cool thing to watch them. They just lit up and they were so amped before and after the outreach. That was really special.
I think the trip highlight for me really was meeting all the young people over there and talking with them during Sabbath night or whenever they wanted to talk. I really enjoyed that.
I think for me, I enjoyed seeing all the different places, the scenery that we went to, and exploring as well.
You know, the highlight for this trip for me has to be doing ministry alongside people half a world away and in my own community that have a passion for following Jesus. And that means working with young people from Kyrgyzstan that, you know, reach to their communities through language clubs, English and Spanish language clubs in a Muslim country, as a way to connect and lead people through their friendship and connection to Jesus.
Something that impacted me was that I had to spend the 4th of July here, which was a day that our friends were asking for prayer so they could have the liberty to have a Christian meeting. And it just made me really appreciate the freedom that we have in countries like the United States to worship God.
Okay, so the impact of this trip for me is coming back to the United States and just the memories of how enthusiastic the people were and how much impact I feel like we had in their lives. And it just makes me want to be more in earnest about how I live my life here and with the context, or living in the context of missions and being able to serve others in a more direct way. That's just been really powerful thought that just keeps hitting me as I've been back.
One of the biggest takes away from me on this trip was just having a big heart to talk to more people and just take the time to listen and get to know people, because at this trip I met a lot of youth and people that just wanted to get to know me and shared a lot of personal things, and I was able to build a lot of strong and new connections that, well, they'll stick with me for a long time.
This trip has impacted my life in the sense that I can trust and believe that God can work miracles through any situation, and how faith can be cultivated in any situation in life.
It was interesting to me to see how everybody lived with a lot less, and they were still fine.
I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was the fact that I realized kindness is a universal thing. It's spoken no matter what language you speak, and everybody there was so kind to us, and it just inspires you to be kind, and also people appreciate your kindness no matter where you are.
The thing that I'm taking away, the thing that I've learned from this trip is that when God asks you to fulfill a mission for Him, to follow Him, there are always reasons and excuses why not to do it. But when we decide to be faithful and follow Jesus, despite the unknowing what's going to happen, despite the challenges, He opens up the doors, opens up the way, and does something miraculous that we didn't see before. So that's my takeaway.
Coming back to normal life after being gone on a mission trip, it has encouraged me to look at the few days a week that I do earn money and think, how much of this can I give to missions when my workday is over? Just because there's so many needs elsewhere in the world, and we were blessed to see some of them at the center and in the community and somewhat in the country at large.
This trip has challenged me to have more faith in my life and to exercise it in what I believe and in what I do, to have faith in God in little things, and just to treat it as a skill or a muscle that I can grow with practice.
For me, it was really interesting to be in another country and see the different cultures, because, you know, you hear about like other countries and they may be poor and stuff, but you don't actually really realize it until you're there. And so it was really eye-opening for me to see how they live, and yet how grateful they are and how grateful I should be.
I think it's impacted me with coming out of my shell more and talking more with people, and really just appreciating life a lot more.
I know it's been a while. Are you okay for Dovelet's message to our church? Or it's another short video. And again, I know it's been a while. If you need to leave or if you need to stand up, I understand. We'll do that, and then we're going to do a closing song all together here. And the closing song is going to be different than what's in the bulletin or not in the bulletin. So anyway, go ahead if you can play Dovelet's message, Matthews.
Happy Sabbath. We are happy to greet God's church by this way. Dear church, we would like to say thank you for this experience what you gave us. Especially, I really appreciate that what you're doing with your youth. Actually, you're building future of your church. I don't know experience of these young people who came, but I'm sure that what you invest them, that you trust them this special mission trip officially from your church to Central Asia, they make them different. They did excellent with God's grace, with God's inspiration. And we would like to say thanks God for a special experience what we have here. Sophia and Michael gave us some kind of idea what was new for us, to make a camp meeting in camp meeting. They will explain you what it means, but for us, for all attendants who was involved of camp for health export in camp outreach on nearby city for all state students from the regular schools, it was something. For us, especially for me as a representative of OCI in Euro-Asia division, it was example which kind camp meetings we should do. Usually we inviting attendants for camp, for youth camp, for regular camp, and serve to them. But this experience, what God gave to Michael and to Sophia to do with those attenders, something for outreach, for unbelievers. It was special experience. Those who came with us to camp in outside, they was, I tell you, they came after camp different. It's give them experience as a missionaries. They not was inspired only by message. They had experience that how God used them as missionaries to others. And they came back from those homes as with missionary mind. We appreciate to you, young people. You can see this, some fruits. Also, for all youth in Central Asia, was a special blessing to see how young people spend those vacation, summer vacation, and money to come to Central Asia to serve and share with Jesus for others. It inspired many of you here to change those lives on different way. I especially would like to say appreciate for pastor who came with them, support them, and was also blessing as a pastor, not only for his team, but for others, with counsels, with support and prayers. A special prayers, thanks to Michael and Heidi. They took responsibility more than they can. And I know it wasn't easy, Michael, but I believe God gave you special blessings and inspiration to do for next that kind blessed mission trips. Church, again, would like to say thank you. May God bless you especially. And please continue bless youth, your future. And you made, by this experience of mission trip of your youth team, blessing to your church for worldwide blessing in this mission. May God bless you.
I'm very grateful to God for our special friends from US. I'm very grateful for Michael and Heidi and for the entire team and for the church that gave an opportunity for them to serve in Central Asia and be a blessing, the big blessing for our youth in Kazakhstan. And I saw dedication and the love that they had while they were serving here, and they were energizing the youth, and it was just good. Yeah, thank you so much.
I want to say thank you also to all the church, for everyone who supported, by funds, who supported by prayers, who made this possible for the team to come. It's the first time we had that big team. And when Michael asked why should the big group from US come, but the first, that this is the example for other young people. Also, it attracts, the other young people to come and see. And this was the theme of our camp meeting. They came and they saw the example of your young people. So we really appreciate for everyone who had the part, not only the one who came, but everyone who have been supporting with all the means to make this possible. And we believe, little by little, we hear different, reports from different people. Just recently, we had one girl from Tekeli. She's not a believer, but she told that this was the 5 most experienced day that she would not forget, and that she was really blessed, spiritually. So many of those experiences, and I believe that God will continue to work on these young people, and they have seen, and the ones who need, they will come back next year again to come and see, to be impressed, and to be closer to God. So we all, I believe, will see the results in heaven, saved souls. So may God continue to bless your family, your church family, and each one of you, in your experience with God and your growth, and that every opportunity that God will give to you, that you will use to be a blessing to others. Thank you again. God be with you.
God bless, friends.
All right, so I need the team to come up that went on the mission trip. We are going to sing you the song that was written for the camp, and that will be considered our closing song. And then, Matthias will have a word beforehand, and then we will adjourn.
Where's your hat? Oh, it's in there. Thank you, Michael. I meant to bring it up with me and I forgot. Draw closer, always closer to Him when you lose your way. Closer, always closer to Him every night and day. Closer to His heart and to His mind. All you truly need in Him you'll find. He is a strong and faithful God. A loving Father in whom you may abide. When I am lost, He is my way. When all is night, He is my day. Come and draw closer to the Lord. Trust in what He says is true. Believe in what He says He'll do. Come and draw closer to the Lord.
Yeah, we just wanted to say thank you to everybody that made this trip happen. It definitely wouldn't have been possible without all your support and donations, and it's made a lasting impact. I mean, I'm still seeing posts on social media by people weeks afterwards saying how much it impacted them, how good of a blessing it was, how much the seminars impacted them, and so thank you.
Let's stand for prayer. Our Father in heaven, thank you so much for this trip, and it had an amazing influence in our life, and we pray that it will continue. The dollars spent, the prayers sent, the people that served, and all the preparation, I pray that all of that work will have eternal reward, and one day in heaven there will be a reaping the results of reaping because of the trip and the sacrifices those made. We appreciate the time we've been able to share, and please guide us the rest of the day in Christ's name. Amen.